This is the Louie Tee Network.
In the lab room.
The views and opinions shared on this program are that of Louie Tee and In the Lab Room alone and should be taken exactly as they are given. If you are soft, easily offended, or can't listen to the criticism of your team, this program is not intended for you. This is pure, unadulterated football talk for the hardcore fan. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome, you are in the lab room. I am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this program, 2014 NFL Lab Reports. Taking a trip slightly down south, not too far, just to Tennessee to talk about the Tennessee Titans. So, what are you waiting for? It's the 2014 NFL Lab Report of the Tennessee Titans. Strengths for the Tennessee Titans. Here's a football team that if you're not paying close enough attention to, you'll forget all about the Tennessee Titans. They're a team that is somewhat obscure. They're one of those teams that's just caught in the mix. They're in that muddle that is the middle of the NFL. They're right in the middle of the pack. So if you don't do anything in this league to separate yourself from everyone else, you're just another team in this league. And Tennessee, they're one of those teams you really don't want to play them because you don't know what you're getting from week to week. They're a scary team. They play defense. If you catch them on the wrong day, they could score 34 points. They're just one of those teams that they make you nervous. Ask the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 1 last year. Steelers didn't score a touchdown. Steelers didn't win the game. Just one of those games where you look up and you're like, wow, Steelers don't score a touchdown, I think, till like a minute left in the game. Got dominated, lost the game, 16-9 or something like that, 13-9, whatever it was. That's just what the Titans can do to you. They can lull you to sleep. I like to say that the Titans, they lull you to sleep. You're not paying attention. Oh, it's the Tennessee Titans. What are they going to do? And next thing you know, they're playing violins. You know, it's the Music City. They play that violin, and all of a sudden, you start feeling the music, and then you just fall asleep, and then you wake up, and somebody then smacked the hell out of you. You got a handprint right across your face. Your eye is black on this side. You got a little bit of blood right here, and you've been in a brawl with the Tennessee Titans, and you don't know what the hell just happened. It's the Tennessee Titans in a nutshell. And looking at the strengths of this football team, you start with third down defense. And there's something fishy going on with this Tennessee Titans football team. And I'll explain here in a second. But this third down defense for this Titans team, third best in the league at getting off the field on third downs. They did a great job of putting teams in precarious situations on first and second down, leaving them in advantageous third down situations, and then capitalizing off of what they had done on the previous 2 downs to get off the field on third down. That's a recipe for success in this league. If you can get off the field on third downs, you will give yourself a chance to win in the National Football League. So you want to know what's fishy about that? I will tell you in a second. You like that little tease, the little grabber I gave you? Not going to tell you quite yet, but it's coming. Trust me, it's coming. You look at another strength of this football team, and that's defensive touchdowns given up. Titans were first, giving up the least amount of touchdowns in the entire league, passing with only 15. That is a great number for this Titans football team. And you ask yourself, what were they doing out there in Tennessee? And this is where that discrepancy comes into play. This is why something smells fishy around Tennessee. You only give up 15 passing touchdowns. And at first, when I looked at the numbers, I said, well, this makes a lot of sense. Titans are among the best in the league on third downs, third best in the league at getting off the field on third downs, not giving up a lot of passing touchdowns. They go hand in hand. You get off the field on third down, guess what teams are doing? They're not extending drives. If you're not extending drives, guess what you're not doing? You're not getting into the red zone. Guess what happens when you don't get into the red zone? You don't score a lot of passing touchdowns. So it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Or does it? Let's go on to the weaknesses for this Tennessee Titans football team. So I said to myself, why doesn't this piece of the puzzle add up? Why aren't these pieces fitting in? They look like they go here, but they're not fitting in together. Why aren't they coming together in perfect harmony like that? And I looked around, I said, okay, they're really good on third downs. They only surrendered 15 passing touchdowns. Why is the completion percentage so high? Why are they giving up 63% completion percentage as a football team? Why isn't this team lowering the amount of yards given up? Why is it that this team and all of these pieces aren't fitting together? Why does it seem like I'm being lied to here? Only 15 passing touchdowns, it just doesn't make sense. Here's why it didn't make sense. Titans among the worst in the league at keeping teams out of the end zone on the ground. So they snuck me. I said, why did they only give up 15 through the air? That's because they were giving them up on the ground. 21 rushing touchdowns, third worst in the league from a statistical standpoint. They gave it up on the ground versus giving it up through the air. And while points come through the passing game in the National Football League, look, points are points, whether you get them on the ground or you get them through the air. It's all the same if you're getting the pay dirt. They all count for 6. So to give it up on the ground the way that the Titans did last season, that's alarming. And that's a problem, something that they need to clean up. So teams said, hey, why risk throwing the ball, maybe getting sacked, having it stripped out of the quarterback's hand, having it get batted into the air and picked off? Why risk having a holding penalty push us back 10 yards or have something catastrophic happen by trying to throw it? Well, we could do the safest thing. Run it in. And that's what teams did to the Tennessee Titans last year. They ran the football into the end zone. Hence, there was no need to throw the football into the end zone as much. So only 15 passing touchdowns. But look, 15, still good enough for the lowest in the league. Look, they still had to keep teams out of the end zone via the air. They still had to do it. But they just found another way in, and it was via the ground, and that's something that the Titans will have to clean up if they're looking to get better as a football team. But this is the biggest weakness to me for this team and why this team can't get over the hump consistently. And it's 2 halves of football. Look, I could sit here and give you all the cliches I want about how to win. Yes, it takes 2 halves of football, 60 minutes, yada, yada, yada. I could sit here and give them all to you. Fact of the matter is the Titans don't seem to know how to put together consistently 2 good halves of football in the same game. How many times last year did this Titans team put forth a solid effort in the first half, only to fall apart in the second half and lose football games? Remember that Indianapolis Colts game on Thursday night? I do, because I remember I stuck my neck, this very neck that you see in front of you, the one that's probably bulging with veins right now. I stuck this neck out on the line for this Tennessee Titans team last year. And I predicted that they were going to beat the Colts. I just had a good vibe about the Titans and the type of football that they were playing. And the Colts were struggling. Remember, Reginald Wayne got injured and they were trying to find themselves. I said, strike while the iron's hot, Tennessee. If you want to prove to me that you have a chance to win this division, strike while the iron's hot. The Colts are in free fall mode right now. They're trying to find an identity. They don't know who they are. Beat them. You're at home. primetime television, beat them. What did the Tennessee Titans do? They jump on top of this team 14-0. Halftime, it's 17-6. What do they do? Fall the hell apart in the second half, lose the game. You look at another game, and if it's not a fast start, slow finish, it's a slow start, fast finish, but it's too late. Remember the Jacksonville game when you let Jacksonville get their first win of the season? Very slow start to that football game. Jacksonville was all over you. They never trailed in that game. You made a thunderous comeback. It's too late. Turn it over late stages of the game. Jacksonville took a 2-score lead, won the game. What about that San Francisco game? Huh? You were, yeah, I know you didn't have Jake Locker. I don't care. You were down 17-0 at halftime. You blinked twice. You were down by 3 scores in that game. Tried to come back. It was too late. Seattle, you played well enough in that first half to win that football game. You were leading after that crazy blocked field goal, whatever the hell it was, and you took it to the crib. You were leading at the half in that game, 10-7. Fell apart in the second half. That was the story of the Tennessee Titans in 2013. 2 halves of football is what it takes to win in this league. Not, a great start, halftime lead, only to fall to pieces in the second half. What about that Arizona game? You played really good in the first half. Fell apart. 21 unanswered points by Arizona. Then you make a roar of a comeback, only to lose in overtime. Because you expended so much energy to come back in that football game, you didn't have enough in the tank to get over the hump. Stop falling behind. Stop getting off to fast starts and not finishing the job. 2 halves of football, Tennessee. You're under new management now. Ken Wisenhunt is in the driver's seat. Let's see if he can change the fortunes of this franchise, because right now you don't know how to win consistently. And that right now is the biggest issue for me in Tennessee. 2 halves of football. 2 halves of football. You had Houston in week 2. Before we even knew Houston was going to be trash, you had them in Houston on the ropes. First half, phenomenal football. Hell, 3 quarters of phenomenal football. And you fell apart and you let them off the hook. 2 halves of football, Tennessee. 2 halves of football, man. So we go from there to camp battles for these Tennessee Titans. As you can see behind me, I have the assistance of my big boy going to break down these camp battles as well as the experiment in Tennessee. So we start on this side with these camp battles. And so we start with the fullback position. Jackie Battle versus Colin Mooney. To me, this is an easy assessment here. Titans are going to go with the guy that offers the most versatility, that being Jackie Battle. Colin Mooney is a guy that you like in Tennessee, has been your fullback in Tennessee for a couple of seasons, but the fact of the matter is Jackie Battle has experience not only as a fullback but also as a tailback. You probably trust Colin Mooney a little bit more as a lead blocker, but Jackie Battle can do a little bit of both. We know him and his days as a tailback in this league. Saw him carry the football quite a bit for them. He's carried it for you as well. So in a pinch, if guys go down at the running back position, Jackie Battle can still double as a running back, still handling fullback duties. I think that versatility and that versatility alone, maybe along with his special teams prowess as well, is going to land him a spot on this roster over Colin Mooney. You move on to the running back position. 4 running backs here. And I don't like this setup at the running back position for the Tennessee Titans. Here's why. You've got 4 running backs. 2 of them are more special teams type of guys. To me, both bringing the same type of skill set to the table. One much better than the other. Of course, Bishop Sankey, Sean Green, Dexter McCluster, and Leon Washington are the backs in question. Now, Sankey your second-round pick out of UW, not going anywhere. Neither is Sean Green. Go ahead and throw Dexter McCluster in there as well because you went out and got him as a prized free agent acquisition from the Kansas City Chiefs. You brought him in here to change the game on special teams. Well, what does Leon Washington do? Change the game on special teams. So when you tell me that you've got two guys that do the same thing, why do you need both of them? I don't like that dynamic. Dexter McCluster can catch it, he can run it, and he's a special teams beast. He's going to try to come over and help you change the fortunes of your special teams unit and do for you what he did for the Kansas City Chiefs last season. So if he's able to stay relatively healthy, then a guy like Leon Washington isn't necessary. And again, I'm all about maximizing my 53 roster spots. I don't need doubles. I don't need clones of anything unless they're both really, really good at something. And even though Leon Washington is really good at what he does, he's not better than Dexter McCluster. Now, is he? And Dexter McCluster is more versatile. He can run it, he can catch it out of the backfield, and he gives you special teams value. So I don't need Leon Washington on my football team. If you don't keep him as a back, and again, remember, Jackie Battle can double as a running back. I don't need to keep Leon Washington as a fifth back on my football team when I can add another linebacker or defensive lineman or even a wide receiver. Remember, we're switching from a 4-3 defensive front and base to a 3-4. I might need to keep an extra body along the linebacking core or the defensive line just because I don't know what I'm getting from some of these players. So it'd be nice to free up a roster spot by not keeping an extra back. This is less of a competition and more about the Tennessee Titans' plan of action at the running back position. I hope that they're not keeping both McCluster and Washington. I hope they're keeping one of them. And we know Dexter McCluster is going to be on this roster. So really what I'm saying is I hope you're not keeping Leon Washington. And I'll also further explain why it's no need to really keep Leon Washington around if someone else is making a roster. We'll get to that in a second. But we move on to wide receiver. And this is a situation where it's 6 receivers for probably 5 roster spots in Tennessee. Kendall Wright, Justin Hunter, Nate Washington, Michael Preston, Mark Mariani, and Derek Hagan are your 6 options. Honestly speaking, Kendall Wright, Justin Hunter, Nate Washington, all on this roster. No doubt about it, those 3 are stone cold locks. Lock it up. Lock it up. Lock those ones up. But Michael Preston, Mark Mariani, and Derek Hagan are going to battle it out for the final 2 roster spots. Now, I think Michael Preston comes in and offers you height and some ability that you want to tap into. I don't think Michael Preston's going anywhere. So now you're talking about essentially 2 guys for 1 roster spot. Mark Mariani and Derek Hagan. Now, Mark Mariani is a guy that about 3-4 years ago was a punt return beast for you. Then he gets injured, tears his knee all up, and hasn't really been the same on punts since then. Now, I don't know what he really offers by way of being a receiver. I don't know what he offers from that perspective. However, if he were to make this roster, and let's just assume that Mark Mariani ends up being the 5th and final receiver on this roster, then again, he can have another role if need be on this team as a punt returner, as a guy that fields kickoffs. Why would Leon Washington be necessary here? Again, you've got another guy that in a pinch can handle those duties for you. You don't need Leon Washington. If Mark Mariani is making this roster, you definitely don't need Leon Washington. Now, if Mark Mariani does not, I could understand maybe why you would want to keep Leon Washington. Just in case Dexter McCluster goes down, you got another guy that can handle those duties. But again, I'm not about keeping clones. I'm just not. So Derek Hagan is a solid guy. You brought him into camp. He's competing. He's playing well. I've always wondered why Derek Hagan could never stick on an NFL roster. Had time in Oakland, had time in Miami. He's been all over the place. Just never been able to find a place he can call home. Doesn't seem like that's going to be in Tennessee either, but I'd love for you to bring somebody else. I'm so underwhelmed by this bottom portion of this receiver group. I'd love to see some young, talented guy that's released from another team be brought in to compete in Tennessee. But that's nor here nor there. We're just talking about who's here right now. That's what it looks like. I think Mariani and Preston are going to be your final two receivers in Tennessee. You move on to the defensive line. And again, I already talked about this briefly. 9 defensive linemen. This is a 3-4 defensive unit, a new group. And Ray Horton is coming over with Ken Wisenhunt. He helped transform that Arizona Cardinals defense into what you see now. Yes, Todd Bowles is the defensive coordinator in Arizona, and he has them playing some dynamite football. But a lot of that was because Ray Horton laid the foundation in Arizona with that 3-4 defensive front. He goes to Cleveland, helps them turn things around defensively. Now he's in Tennessee. So you're hoping he can come in and change the fortunes of your defensive football team. And now you look at the defensive line. And I'm personally, I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm not going to talk about it right now. 9 for 7 or possibly 8. And I think 8 defensive linemen in a 3-4 defensive front is a bit much. I think it's overkill. Again, you're going to a new scheme and philosophy. You pretty much are sold on about 4 or 5 of these guys. But again, the depth. How are these guys going to respond in this defense for a full 16-game slate? You do not know. And because there is an unknown factor here, you might keep an extra body. I'm not really sure if that's necessary because, again, you're talking about 3 positions, 2 ends and a nose tackle. You don't need 8 roster spots for 3 positions. Really, 7 should be more than enough. And to be honest, you could get away with 6, 2 at each, and feel good about what you're doing, and have one of those guys at defensive end also be versatile enough to go inside and play some nose tackle if need be. That's what you would ideally like to do. But again, not everyone has that kind of versatility and depth and really good football players at the defensive line. And in your case, you just don't know. These guys didn't play in a 3-4 defensive scheme last year, so you just don't know. Guys are making this switch, and you're hoping that they fit in very well. So Jarrell Casey, Rapati Patuatua, Sammy Lee Hill, Daquan Jones, Al Woods, Antonio Johnson, Mike Martin, Carl Klug, and LeVar Edwards are your 9 defensive linemen. Now, Jarrell Casey, stud, going to be on this roster. Rapati Patuatua is one of those guys that just fits in whatever you're running. At 6'7", 6'8", 310 pounds or so, he's a prototypical, 5 technique in a 3-4 defensive front. So he's definitely on this roster. Sammy Lee Hill has a wide frame, going to probably be a solid nose tackle in this defense. Daquan Jones is, to me, the quintessential 5 technique. If you can get this kid to play with a high motor out of Penn State, you got yourself a stud on your hands as a 5 technique. Al Woods, the guy you got from the Pittsburgh Steelers, going to come in. He's got 3-4 experience. Expect him to be on this roster. Antonio Johnson is a guy that you trust, has been on this roster, can play some solid football. He's going to be on this roster. This is where it gets dicey towards the bottom. We've already run through 6 players that are probably going to be on this roster. Now you're looking for that 7th, possibly 8th player to round out this group. Now, Mike Martin, I think, is going to be solid enough to be around. Now, Carl Klug, here's a guy that was a glue guy on this defense at defensive tackle in a 4-3 defense. Now, all of a sudden, you switch to a 3-4 defensive front, and he's a fish out of water. He's not big enough to be a nose tackle, and he's not stout enough to be a 5 technique defensive end. Is he going to fit in what Tennessee is trying to do at 5 technique at the defensive end position? He could be a guy that is a casualty of this switch. We'll see. LeVar Edwards is a guy that you drafted, 2 years ago out of LSU? I'd hate to see him get the axe, but that's what happens when you switch defensive philosophies. That's what happens when a new coaching staff comes in. I didn't draft you, so I don't have any ties to you. I don't owe you anything. You can be released like that. So LeVar Edwards definitely on the chopping block. He's going to have a strong camp if he's going to remain on this roster. You move on to linebackers. And generally, the rule of thumb when you're in a 3-4 defense is that you don't have the same amount nor more defensive linemen than you do linebackers. That's just a general rule of thumb. You normally carry more linebackers, and again, it makes sense. You have more linebackers on the field at once than you do defensive linemen. 4 linebackers, only 3 defensive linemen. So you would expect to divulge an extra body or two at linebacker versus defensive line. So while 7 is realistic to me, 8 could be a possibility, and your general manager, Rustin Webster, has basically already said, yeah, that's a possibility. So you don't know what could happen. So you look at linebackers, 10 for 9 or possibly 8. 10 players jockeying for either 9 or 8 roster spots. Cameron Wembley, Derek Morgan, Wesley Woodyard, Zach Brown, Sean Phillips, Akeem Ayers, Xavier Gooden, Avery Williamson, and Colin McCarthy, as well as Moises Foku. Now, this is the position where you see the most struggle early on in this process. And generally speaking, and I want to talk about this right now. I said I was going to keep it off for later, but I think now is a good time as any to talk about this. Normally, when you play a 4-3 defensive front the year before and you switch to a 3-4, normally I call it a year of transition. You struggle, and I call it a mandatory year of struggle because of the transition. Because you've got a lot of guys that fit the prototypical 4-3 defensive end that you're now asking to take their hand out of the dirt and stand up as an outside rush linebacker in a 3-4 defensive front. Some of these guys are going to be like fish out of water, especially when you're asking them to drop into coverage, to guard and to check a tight end out in space, to run with a wheel route up the sideline. These are all things that these guys aren't used to doing. This is uncharted territory for a lot of these guys, like a Derek Morgan, who has never stood up in the NFL, has always been a hand in the dirt defensive end since he's been with this Tennessee Titans football team. So you ask yourself, are these guys going to be able to make this transition? We will see. But Cameron Wembley and Derek Morgan and Wesley Woodyard, a guy you went out and got from the Denver Broncos, Zach Brown, Sean Phillips, a guy you went and got from the Denver Broncos, they're all on this roster. Those 5 are on this roster for sure. Throw in Akeem Ayers as well. He's going to be around at 6. Xavier Gooden, pretty safe to say that he's going to make this roster as well. That's 7. Now this is where it gets a little tricky at the bottom. Avery Williamson is a guy you drafted out of Kentucky that I'm not a huge fan of. So to me, he's undersized, lacks a lot of athleticism, is indecisive. Those things could all change. I mean, except for the size, of course. Maybe his athleticism shows up a little bit better because, again, you don't have to be the most athletic guy to make plays if you can diagnose them quickly and read and react faster than the guy in front of you. You can make plays even if you're not the most athletic. So he can improve upon some of his deficiencies, but I'm not a big fan of Avery Williamson, so I don't know if he's making this roster or not. Again, it's not like this kid was a 3rd or a 4th round pick. He was a later pick in the draft, so he can easily not be on this roster. To me, of these last 3, of Avery Williamson, Colin McCarthy, and Moises Foku, it's a no doubter that Colin McCarthy is the best of those 3 players. I would argue that he's better than a couple of these guys that I named up top that are locks to make this roster. The problem with Colin McCarthy is he can't stay healthy, and I can't have a guy on my roster that can't stay healthy. You can't help me from the sidelines in a warm-up. So if I'm the Titans, it's this simple. If I think Colin McCarthy can stay healthy, then he needs to be on this roster. End of discussion. Now, if you want to keep 9, then Avery Williamson is a guy that you drafted. You go with the guy that you drafted and you move forward from there. I think Moises Foku, I'm hearing that he's been practically invisible in camp. He's not getting a lot of reps. He's not making anything happen. So wouldn't surprise me if he does not make this roster. Wouldn't surprise me if Avery Williamson or Colin McCarthy don't make this roster. But we will see what the Titans decide to do at the linebacker position. Now you go to a couple of one-on-one battles to make this roster. Cornerback, Khalid Wooten versus Tommy Campbell for the 5th and final cornerback position. Now, Tommy Campbell, I'm hearing this guy's getting torched 6 ways to Sunday. Now, they said he's been beat by just about every receiver on this roster, and it's a consistent beating. This isn't he got beat bad today, he'll rebound tomorrow. He got beat Monday, he got beat Tuesday, he got beat Thursday, he got beat Saturday too. And they only did a walkthrough on Saturday. Yeah, he's getting beat like that. So, if that's the case, maybe he doesn't need to be on this roster. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So, if in fact he is being torched the way that I'm hearing, and that carries over to the preseason matchups, maybe Tommy Campbell won't be around when this 53-man roster is released. Khalid Wooten is a young guy, some upside. We'll see if Tommy Campbell, because I think it's Tommy Campbell's job to lose. He's got to play himself out of a roster spot for Khalid Wooten to make this roster. We'll see if Tommy Campbell is able to right the ship, get it done, and remain a Tennessee Titan, or if Khalid Wooten is going to come in and take that roster spot away from him. And you wrap this camp battle portion of this show up with a kicker competition. These are the type that I don't like. Because if there's one position that I want to have solidified on my team, and of course, I would always start with quarterback. But, you know, we love to diminish the role of specialists, kickers, and punters on our teams, but they play integral parts of the success of your team from year to year, especially field goal kickers. Punters, yeah, punters impact the game, but they don't put points on or take points off the scoreboard like a field goal kicker can. So I'm more inclined to say that kickers are important, and this is one of those positions that I'd love to have already penciled in if I were a fan of a team. And in the Titans case, I've been hearing people say, hey, I'm ready to get rid of Rob Baronis. Okay, you got your wish. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. Now it's Travis Coons versus Micah Bonani. And this is a situation where what's more important to you? Which one do you value the most? You looking for a strong leg? Could be slightly inconsistent, but on touchbacks, going to give you plenty of those, and going to be able to trot him out there for a 54-yard field goal. Now, is he going to make it? Can't answer that. But it's going to have enough distance. Is the accuracy going to be there? I don't know about that. Or do you value accuracy? Is he going to kick the ball out of the end zone and give you some touchbacks? Probably not. Probably going to have a strong special teams kickoff coverage unit because he's not kicking the ball out of the end zone. And no, you can't put him out there for a 54-yarder. Probably going to come up short. But if you put him out there for a 49-yarder, probably bang it home. Which one matters to you the most? Strength of leg with Travis Coons or accuracy with Micah Bonani? Which one matters the most to you? Give me the guy with the consistency that I struggle with. Should I bring him out there for a 51-yarder or not? Give me the guy that at 47 yards is going to bang it home. Don't give me the guy that I can send out there for the 54-yarder and he's going to miss, and going to miss that 47-yarder as well. Now, he's going to have plenty of leg for both. But he might push it right. Or he might hook it left. I'll take my chances with the guy that's going to bang it home from 47. Thank you very much. Hope your returns team is good enough to cover, though, if you keep the guy with the weaker leg. That's why I always say, you never know what you've got till it's gone. Hope you didn't make a mistake in Tennessee at the field goal kicking position. We will see. So those are your camp battles. We move on to the experiment, and I have titled it New Music for Your Ears. That's right. Y'all got some new flavor coming in your ear. Ken's kicking new flavor in your air. Tennessee, new flavor in your air. Here comes Ken Wisenhunt. Are y'all ready? Y'all should be. It's time for a change in Tennessee. And I think I've got the right man for the job. Let's talk about this experiment. Research question. With all of the new changes, new head coach, new defensive philosophy, and roster turnover, can Jake Locker stay healthy and prove his first round draft status by making the Titans a winner in 2014? There are so many questions in that question. It's not even funny. There's a lot of changes here. Can Jake Locker stay healthy? That's a big question. One that he has answered throughout his career with a resounding no. Okay, so no. Will that be the answer in 2014? You're hoping that is not the case. We will see. Can he prove that he should have been a first-round pick? Well, the health is tied into that. You got to stay on the field to prove that you are worthy of that first-round selection. Can he make this Titans team a winner in 2014? I don't know the answer to that very convoluted question. Let's go to the hypothesis and see how this Titans team can fare in 2014. If Jake Locker stays healthy and is consistent and the defense is tremendous in year one of Ray Horton's defensive scheme, then the Tennessee Titans can challenge for the AFC South crown. Now let me say this. This isn't the NFC West. This isn't the AFC East. This division is wide open. This isn't the AFC West. There is no definitive front runner in this division. Now, the Colts are a good football team. Do not get me wrong. But this right here is the weakest division in all of football. You can get mad if you like. I don't give a damn. This division is weak. It is inferior. So, if you are the Tennessee Titans, if Jake Locker can... Look, you started the season off 3-1 last year. You went on the road, shocked the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, we didn't know the Steelers were going to start the season off 0-6 or whatever it was they started. That was before we knew all of that. You went to Pittsburgh and started that. You were dusting off teams left and right. If not for that meltdown in Houston in week 2, you were 4-0 to start the season, including a beatdown of the Jets. Now, that cost you your quarterback. And because of that injury, you ended up going 7-9 last year. And I tell you what, you could have won 2 out of the 3 next games that you played. I don't know, maybe you would have lost to the 49ers either way, but you would have been in that game. You would have beat Kansas City, I think. I mean, you were in that football game, played well enough to win. You just didn't have that quarterback to take you over the hump. So, I question whether you're even in this situation if Locker stays healthy last year, but it's a brand new season now. And he did get hurt. And you did struggle after that. And he did come back and wasn't the same quarterback. So, the question now becomes, can he stay healthy? Can he be consistent? Can his defense in year one of Ray Horton's new defensive scheme that he's implementing come in and make this transition seamlessly? Can you get it done? Can you get to the quarterback? Can you force turnovers? Can you hold teams down and give this offense a chance? All questions that we don't currently have the answers to. But that's what it's going to take for this Tennessee Titans team to be relevant in the AFC South. And this division is wide open. Jacksonville, they're going to compete. They're going to be a much better football team. But as long as Blake Bortles is on the pine, learning, as long as he's not playing, and Chad Henne's the lead man, Jacksonville is going to be a 5-6 win team max. So they're still going to be bad. Houston is in free fall mode. They don't have a quarterback. They don't even have a guy. And look, you can sit here and talk to me about Tom Savage all you like. Tom Savage is 2 years away from being on the field as a starter in this league. So they're going to be funky. Because if you're telling me Ryan look, you know all about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't have to tell you about Ryan Fitzpatrick. You know all too well how that story ends. You know the movie. You know the script. You know the ending. So I'm telling you that Houston's going to be bad. You're going to be a solid football team. Indianapolis is going to be a good football team. You two duke it out for this division. If you stay healthy, if you make this transition to this 3-4 defense seamlessly enough, why can't it be you being the AFC South champion? Why can't it be you representing this division in the postseason, getting a home playoff game? I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So, materials needed for that to happen. Lockers room. Lockers room. Jake's got to stay on the field. Jake's got to command this offense. It's a new offensive scheme. It's Ken Wisenhunt's deal. Jake Locker's got to have a presence about him. It's got to be his room. The field, the huddle, this team, it's got to be his. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to be the guy that everyone looks to on this football team for leadership. Offensive, defensive. He's the engine that makes this car go. And if he isn't ready to stay healthy and accept that leadership role and take on that responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility. If he's not ready to take that next step, then I know a young man who is. And so this is it. This is it. The last shot for Jake. This is it. This is his last opportunity to show that he belongs as the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Because there's a young man knocking at the door. And there is going to only be so long you can hold him off. Jake Locker must step up. And if Jake gets injured this year, your season goes down the drain. And Jake's career goes along with it. So, you move on to the next material needed. Goodwill Hunter. Goodwill Hunter. I see a very, very explosive and potentially dominant receiver on your team. Nope, I'm not talking about Kendall Wright, man. Not talking about him. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Justin Hunter. Did you see him in preseason game number 2? Because I did. That's the guy that I want to see. Explosive, big play, can go up, high point the football in the end zone. He made big plays for you last year, but it was only in the end zone. Had one good game last year. That was against the Raiders. Stood up, got it done in a game that you needed at the time to keep you in the playoff discussion. This kid has all the tools to be a #1 threat in this league and has the ability to put this Tennessee Titans offense on the map. To me, he's the best receiver you got. And I want to see you guys get him the football. And I'm not talking Kendall Wright bubble screen, get him the football. I'm talking about let this young man run 9 routes. Let him run deep posts. Let him run slants. Get it in his hand and go. Much faster than slow. This kid is talented. Get Justin Hunter the football and watch him work. Goodwill Hunter. Horton here's a who. Your defensive coordinator, Ray Horton, is good at what he does. And this defense is going through a transformation. Some of these guys will fit. Some of them will not. You've got some guys that have proven themselves in this league to be able to play in a 3-4 defense. You went out and got Wesley Woodyard. He's played in a 3-4 defense before. You went out and got Sean Phillips. He's played in a 3-4 defensive front before. Ropati Patuatua has played in a 3-4 defensive front before in New York. You've got players that have experience. You've got guys that have talent. Cameron Wembley has played in a 3-4 defensive front before as well. So you've got guys that have talent. And then you've got a lot of guys that I think are made for this type of defense, that will flourish in this type of defensive front. Now it's all about getting the most out of what you have, and Ray Horton will do that. Guys have to step up and take responsibility and the onus of being great at their position to help this defense reach new heights. If this team is going to win this division, you're going to have to play some really good defense and bypass that mandatory year of struggle that I usually attach with making a transition from one defense to another. Good luck. You're going to need it. You move on to probably one of the most crippling Achilles heels this Tennessee Titans team has, and that's family business. If they said he ain't did it, then he ain't did it. But if he did, well, that's family business. You all know what family business is, right? If you've been watching me for any period of time, you know what family business is. It's games within the division. That's family business. Everybody knows everybody, man. You play against the Tennessee Titans if you're Jacksonville. If you're Jacksonville, you play against Houston. If you're Houston, you play against Indy. Everybody knows everybody, man. Like they your first cousins. Yeah, you know them boys. They been to the crib before. Y'all duked it out. Y'all looked and y'all smiled at each other. Y'all family, man. I know you. I know what you're going to do before you do it. You know why? Because I played you twice last year. And the year before that. And the year before that. I know you. You can't try to sneak anything past me because I know you. We family, man. And so you need to start taking care of family business, man. You were terrible. Over the last 3 or 4 years, Mike Munchak's undoing in Tennessee was the fact that he couldn't win in the division. What did you go last year? 1-5 in the division? Your only win in the division, or you might have went 2-4. I think your only 2 wins were against Houston once and Jacksonville once. And again, you can't let Jacksonville beat you, or at least they were winless when they beat you. And they beat you in Tennessee, which is unfathomable. So you got to take care of family business. Again, I'm of the school of thought that if you can't take care of family business, and taking care of family business means that you're at or above 500 in your division. So 3-3 or better. If you can't take care of family business, then you don't need to go anywhere. No playoffs for you. You 2-4 in your division, stay home. 1-5, I don't think so. 0-6, forget about it. So if you're not taking care of family business, you don't need to look at me. Don't look at me with those sad puppy dog eyes. Stay home. You're not going with me. You can't go to the postseason. So if you're trying to make a power move in the AFC, start taking care of family business. You know them dudes. You know Jacksonville. I know them. I remember. That's Indianapolis. That's Andrew Luck and them. That's family. Take care of your family business, man. So that's going to be big for the Tennessee Titans. Take care of your family business. And you go on to the final material needed. Let Ken lead the way. Let Ken lead the way. Ken Wisenhunt has been to that mountaintop. He's been to the Super Bowl. Now, he didn't conquer when he got there, but he's been to the mountaintop. He didn't win it, but he can say, I've been there. I know what it takes to get to that point. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of effort, and a lot of guys, 53 of them to be exact, buying into the same principle. We've all got to be on the same page. When's the last time you've been to the postseason, huh? Don't ask me. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you Tennessee Titans fans know exactly the last time you've been. I don't know. Don't ask me because I don't know. I know it's been a while. When's the last time you hosted a home playoff game? Forget about that. When's the last time you were in the wild card game? When's the last time you did that? It's been a while, man. I know that much. I don't know when it was. I know it's been a while, though. Let Ken lead the way. Ken's been there before. Ken's gotten it done. Ken knows what it feels. Ken was in the playoffs last year. Helped turn around Phillip Rivers in that San Diego Chargers offense. Ken knows what it means to get into the postseason. Ken knows how to win when he gets there. Let Ken lead the way. I don't know about you. I'm looking up and down this roster. I don't see a lot of Super Bowl rings. Nate Washington might have one with the Steelers. How long ago was that? If he does have one. Man, was that long ago. There's not a lot of experience here with winning. It's a lot of losers on this roster. Let Ken Wisenhunt show you the way. He'll take you where you want to go. He can coach up the offense. Ray Horton will take care of the defense. Let Ken show you the way. Independent variable. Jake Locker's health. I've already spoken about this ad nauseum. This is my last time delving into this subject matter because you get this. You get it. You understand what has to happen for this team to have success. Jake Locker has to be healthy. And whether he stays healthy or not, he's going to impact this football team. Wherever you're going in 2014, Jake Locker's going to take you there. If you're going to the top, if you're rising to the top, if you're going to the top, Jake Locker's going to take you there. If you're going to the bottom, if we can hear echoes from your voice, hey, 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 we're down here, here. If we're hearing echoes from your voice, it's because Jake Locker took you there. Whether he got injured and left you to fend for yourself or he just played bad football, either way, he took you there. Wherever you're going in 2014, Jake Locker's going to be responsible for it, whether he's healthy or not. So his health is imperative to the success to the Tennessee Titans in 2014. You go on to the dependent variable, and it's defensive aggressiveness. And this basically stems from Jake Locker's health. If Jake is in the lineup, he's playing good football. I saw y'all blaze some cats last year with Jake on the field. How many points did you put up against the Jets again? I forget. You put a 40 burger on them for sure. I'm not sure if you got to 50. I don't think you got to 50. You put a 40 burger on those boys, though. I know that much. Look, I've seen you do work with Jake in the lineup. And that was, what, 3 quarters of Jake? 2.5 quarters of Jake before he went down with that injury? And you blazed the Jets. And the Jets, we're talking top 10 defense. We ain't talking about some slouches here. We're talking about a defense that gets it done annually. You blazed those boys. Put 40 on their skull. So, and yeah, I know Geno helped out a lot, but I don't care. 40's a 40. A 40 burger is a 40 burger. Tastes good, and it all tastes the same. So, I've seen you put points on team's skull before. If Jake is healthy and you're scoring points, the defense can be aggressive. Ray can turn the dogs loose, man. I don't have to worry about, okay, offense is struggling. I need to be a little conservative in my approach because I can't afford to give up a 72-yard touchdown because I wanted to play zero coverage, blitz 7 guys, man-to-man across the board, and somebody got torched. I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to turn the dogs loose and go after a quarterback and force him into an errant throw and a mistake because our offense isn't getting it done. We don't have any margin for error, so if we go out trying to be gung-ho and making something happen and we give it up, we could lose the football game. You don't want to handcuff your defensive coordinator like that. Take the shackles off the man and let him go out and call the game the way he wants to call it. Whether he wants to be conservative and play zone coverage or he wants to attack, be aggressive, play man-to-man, and go after teams' quarterbacks. Let him call the game the way he wants to. And the way he'll be able to do that is if Jake Locker is healthy and being productive on the offensive side of the football. Which takes us directly to our constant Michael Rules. And he's the lone soldier in Tennessee now. With his running mate, Stewart, out of the mix. It's all Michael Rules in Tennessee. He's the last of a dying breed. He's the longest tenured Tennessee Titan now. No more Rob Baronis. So that's it. What you see is what you get. And it's funny because when you start running off the list of some of the most consistent left tackles in the league, Michael Rule's name never comes up. And he and David Stewart, they had a great partnership in Tennessee for about 7 years running. It was strong. They were solid. They were good bookend tackles. Rules has always done his job and been rock solid for the Titans, no matter who the quarterback is. And when you run off the list of best tackles in the league, his name doesn't come up. You know, and maybe rightfully so. But when you talk about the most consistent tackles, his name should. And he's been a fixture in Tennessee going into his 10th season. Has never played less than 15 games in his career. Only missed 1 game as a Titan, and that was in 2012. 1 game. That's it. 16 across the board. If that's not a model of consistency, I don't know what is. He's the constant. in Tennessee. Conclusion. What does this all mean for the Tennessee Titans? I look at this Titans football team, and I pretty much explained to you what this Titans organization is. They're a scary group that from game to game, hell, from half to half, I already explained to you that this team doesn't know how to put two halves of football together. You don't know what kind of football team you're getting. They're a scary bunch because if you get them on the wrong day, they could put up 48 points on you. You get them on the wrong day, they could hold you down to 13. If you get them on the wrong day, they can jump up and bite you. You get them on the right day, Jake Locker's being funky. Jake Locker's not even in the lineup. You got some questionable backup quarterback in the game. You could pounce on these guys. Or you could be in for the fight of your life and just barely get away with a W. This team is scary nonetheless. And if they play up to their full potential with the talent that they have on their roster, if they make this transition from 4-3 to 3-4 defense seamlessly, if Ken Wisenhunt is able to instill his offensive mentality onto this football team right away, and they get it right out of the gate, if the running back position is consistent with Sean Green and Bishop Sankey, if you're getting something from special teams because of the addition of Dexter McCluster, this team can go from second to first in this division in the AFC South. This division is wide open. I've already spoken on that subject matter. Problem is, I don't think you're better than the Indianapolis Colts. And I don't think all of those things are going to happen. I don't see a perfect storm brewing for this Tennessee Titans team. Will Dexter McCluster be what he was a season ago for the Chiefs? I don't know. I don't know. Look, the guys blocking in front of him have to be just as dynamic as he is as a player. So those two have to go hand in hand. I don't know what he's going to do, how he's going to produce. I think this defense is going to struggle for at least a year. That's why I call it the mandatory year of struggle. It's hard to switch from a 4-3 to a 3-4 defensive front. Guys have to do different things. What once was, hey, let me just go out and dominate, you might have to take on double teams to free up some space for the linebackers. Some guys aren't adept at doing other things. So we'll see. Jarrell Casey could go from a guy that got double-digit sacks a season ago to not even sniffing a quarterback but 3.5 times this year. How is he going to react to that? I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. So we will see how this team operates. I look at this team and I see 7-9. And I still think you're going to have struggles with this division. And to me, that's the key for you. Family business. I talked about it in the materials needed. I got you going 2-4 in the division. I got the Colts sweeping you again. Until you beat the Colts, I don't see you beating the Colts. I need you to prove to me that you can beat the Indianapolis Colts. Because you had them on the ropes last year. You let them off the hook. So beat Indianapolis. I got them sweeping you and I got you splitting with the other two teams. Prove to me that that's not who you are. But right now, 7-9, best I can do for you. Best I can do. And so that is the lab report for the Tennessee Titans. I thank you for joining me on this program. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. I thank you for joining me. Come back and join me tomorrow when we break down the next team up on the docket. Kansas City Chiefs. See you then. Like the content? Want more? Sub up.